believe in God, but believe also that God believes in us. Let me explain this. Because this is something we often forget. Masyado nating inassociate yung faith as belief in God. Well, yes, faith has to do with believing in God, but it also has to do with trusting that our God believes in us. That our God has never given up on our humanity. Hindi siya nanood lang mula sa langit. God Himself immersed Himself in our human condition. At ang tawag natin dyan is the mystery of incarnation. If you think humanity is doomed, bakit niyakap pa ng anak ng Diyos ang ating pagkatao? And this is the same humanity that He lifted up in His ascension. He raised up through His resurrection. But before He raised it up, He immersed Himself into it. Immersed Himself fully in our brokenness. And, well, we read that in John chapter 1, verse 14. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. God did not see His image in us as ruined beyond repair. I think God looked at humanity and what He saw was a masterpiece under the mess. Karamihan naman sa masterpieces, they are a work in progress. And the work of coming up with a finished product can be messy. Pero ang sabi ng Psalm number 8, what is a human being that you are mindful of us? A mere mortal that you care for us. Yet you have made us a little less than God. You've crowned us with honor and glory. Well, I think that should be enough to make you agree that if faith is about believing in God, it is also about believing in the God who believes in us. Kaya wag namang ipagpasa Diyos na lang lahat ng bagay. Ang talino natin, ginawa tayong mapanlikha ng Diyos. Binigyan niya tayo ng imahinasyon. Gamitin natin ang potensyal ng ating pagkatao sa ikabubuti ng mundo na patuloy niyang nililikha. The world is not a finished product. It is a work in progress. Statement number 4. Hope is founded on love. Sabi yan ni St. Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13. Actually, I mentioned this also in my last talk nung 8 years ago. Was it 8 years ago sa SMX? Yeah. Well, if you read 1 Corinthians 13, start by reading it from 1 Corinthians 12. Kasi sa chapter 12, that is where Paul introduces the many different gifts and charisms bestowed by the Holy Spirit on the whole community of disciples. Marami tayong gifts, ang sabi niya. Pero sa dulo ng chapter 12, may tip si St. Paul. Ang sabi niya, yes, you have many lesser gifts, but you must aspire for the greater gifts. Aba, may categorization pala si St. Paul. Lesser gifts, greater gifts. Ano yung greater gifts? I-identify niya yan pagkatapos ng chapter 13. Sa dulo ng chapter 13, ang sabi niya, these 3 things remain. 3 bagay lang daw ang mananatili sa mundong lumilipas. The greater gifts of faith, hope, and love. And the greatest is love. It's not faith. Huwag nating masyadong pinagmamalaki ang faith natin. Because faith without love is not genuine. It's not even hope. You cannot have hope without love. So hope is not wishful thinking. It is born from love. Without love, there can be no hope. Well, yung isang philosopher, Gabriel Marcel, captured this beautifully. And one of the courses that I enjoyed very much at the Ateneo was my Psychology of Religion course. And there we discussed Gabriel Marcel. Well, Father Roque Ferriols discussed him also. Pinabasa niya sa amin ang isang essay written by Gabriel Marcel, The Critique of a Phenomenology and a Metaphysics of Hope. And there, the philosopher Marcel summed it up beautifully. Ang sabi niya, true hope ends with a prayer. And that prayer says, I hope in thee for us. It is addressed to God. I hope in you, O Lord, but this hope is because of us. Our bonds, our communities, our societies. True hope is never selfish. You don't hope only for your individual self. Hindi lang ito para sa ako. Ito'y para sa atin. Umaasa ako sa iyo, Panginoon, alang-alang sa amin. Alang-alang sa atin. Hope is always for us. It is rooted in love. Our hope for our families, our communities, our nation. And now statement number 5, balik sa work in progress. We are a work in progress. We must never give up on our humanity because God never did. We must never give up on our humanity because God never did. Alam ko, meron tayong madalas awitin na isang Pilipinong awit na para bang napaka-negative tungkol sa ating pagkatao. Sapagkat kami, tao lamang. Nilagyan pa ng lamang. Para bang ang baba naman ng self-esteem natin, para bang ang ating pagkatao ay inequate na natin sa kasalanan, sa kasamaan, sa kahinaan. Oh no. God never gave up on our humanity. We are works in progress. Ang sabi ni St. Paul sa mga Philippians chapter 1 verse 6, He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. We are flawed, no doubt. Wala namang perpektong tao. But we were created by a perfect God. Wow! On cue ba yun? We're imperfect, but we're products of a perfect God. I think that's enough to assure you that this God is still in the process of perfecting His creation. Kaya wag nating mamaliitin ang ating pagkatao. Wag nating sabihin sapagkat kami tao lamang. Sabihin natin kami taong nagpapakatao. Dahil tinuruan kami ng Diyos mismo kung papaano maging tao. Dahil ang Diyos mismo nagkatawang tao. That's the greatest detail in our salvation history. Na niyakap ng Diyos ang tinuturing nating mababang pagkatao. Ang Diyos na nagpakatao upang turuan tayo kung papaano maging ganap ang ating pagpapakatao. If God can be patient with us, surely we can learn to be patient too. And one of my favorite lines is this, And I got it from Marilu Diaz-Abaya, the film director, who volunteered for many years in Pampanga to direct our talk show Men of Light, our talk show on the Sunday Gospel. Sabi niya, kaya naman ako nagbo-volunteer because ang hinihingi kong bayad sa inyo is you mentor me in the scriptures. Kasi storyteller ako by profession, ang sabi niya. And I believe that the greatest story ever told is in the Bible, the story of salvation. Kaming mga storytellers, sabi niya, naniniwala that there is no story worth telling except a story of redemption. Kaya ang sabi niya, I believe in happy endings. If the ending is not happy, then it's not yet the end. I believe in happy endings. If it is not yet happy, it's not yet the end. Isn't that beautiful? That means we must continue to tell and retell the story until it reaches its proper happy ending in Jesus Christ. Do you remember what he did when he showed up as a stranger on the way to Emmaus? He walked with 2 disciples. Itong dalawang alagad na ito, they did not recognize him. But what did he do? And I think you have the mark of a good leader there. Huh? He drew near. He drew near to them. He did not immediately lecture to them. First, he drew near. Lumapit muna siya. He walked with them. And then he entered into their conversation. But first, he listened to them. Ito ang isang bagay na iginiit ng mabuti ni Pope Francis sa Synod on Synodality. Isa sa mga pagkakamali natin sa simbahan ay masyado tayong nasanay na tayo ang pinakikinggan. It's about time tayo naman ang makinig. Paano natin tutugunan ang mga tanong ng ating henerasyon kung hindi man lang natin inalam kung ano ang kanilang mga tanong? I remember nung bata pa ako, madalas ulit-ulitin ng Campus Crusade for Christ. Christ is the answer. At ang reaction namin was, what was the question? Don't ever offer Christ as an answer to people's lives without bothering first and foremost to listen to their questions, to their real life struggles, their longings and aspirations. If you want the church to have any pastoral relevance and impact at all on Philippine society, we must be ready first of all to listen. Huwag tayo kagad na parang meron tayong immortal truths to offer to people. No, we listen with humility. Only by listening with humility, only by immersing in the crassness of the human condition, can we find out how Christ can answer people's questions. So, don't ever forget the slogan. I believe in happy endings. If it's not happy, it's not yet the end. You know, nakakatawa yung Emmaus story eh. Kasi, tinanong muna ni Jesus, ano bang pinagkukwentuhan ninyong dalawa? Akalain mo, they told the story of Jesus to Jesus without knowing that the one who was walking with them was Jesus. Mapagbiro ang Panginoon. I think, number 1 prankster ang Panginoon. Katabi mo na siya, kalakbay mo na siya, hindi mo alam, siya pala yun. Nagtanong siya, ano ba ang kwento? And they told the story of Jesus as a tragic story. At pinakinggan muna ni Jesus yung kanilang tragic story about Jesus. And after listening to the tragic story, Jesus would retell the same story and turn it into a story of redemption, a story of salvation.